Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Ageless Blissings with Brenda Pierce. You've come to the right place for candid conversations, inspiration, and empowerment. Join me with my very special guests as we bring you media that matters on the Divas That Care network. For more about the Divas and to listen to various podcasts, visit www.divasthatcare.com. Now let's get on with the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ageless Blissings Radio. I'm your host, Brenda Pierce, the empowered nurse here to triage body, mind, and spirit. And it's truly my mission to get credible information out to you to help you fill your life with bliss and live ageless, to enjoy life at every stage. You can check out our resources by visiting www.tinyurl.com/AB Marketplace and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Ageless Blissings. Listen to the Divas That Care at www.divasthatcare.com and get inspired because the world is full of great information for you. And today my very, very special guest is Martina Bill. And Martina Bill stumbled into the world of cannabis education through her role as an administrative assistant at a medical clinic in 2016. And as a frontline face to patients in the clinic, it soon became evident that she would become an educator, helping patients to understand how to use cannabis as medicine. She received her Master of Marijuana certificate from the Cannabis Training University. There is much misunderstanding regarding medicinal cannabis despite the legalization of pot in Canada. Martina is filling the gap in understanding and education. She has several great anecdotes to success with this natural way of helping so many to overcome chronic pain, seizures, and withdrawal from drugs and addictions, depression, and so much more. And this is adding quality to people's lives when used with knowledge and care. And that's what I really want to stress, is that it is important to get credible information from credible people, not just incredible people, but credible. You can learn more by contacting Light Cannabis Resource Center, and the information is, their phone number is 1-647-325-5983. You can also visit lightclinic.com as the website to get more information. And with no further ado, welcome, Martina.
Thank you so much for having me, Brenda. I really appreciate the opportunity to discuss cannabis in Canada as medicine, as well as to differentiate between the two medical versus recreational aspects of cannabis.
And I think this is the whole thing. Some people who have always thought of it as an evil drug need to know that there is a difference between medicinal and recreational, right?
Yes, it's definitely needed. Our whole lives we've been told to stay away from this drug as it can cause, sociological issues, economic issues. But really, this has been a plant medicine that's been used for thousands of years all throughout our history. And it's only been in the last 100 years that it's been, removed from our access. And a lot of patients,
right.
When they're...
Yeah,
so just helping them to understand that difference.
Yeah, exactly. Because we actually physiologically have something called cannabinoid receptors in our body. So our body is really looking at this as a biological effective tool for our body, our health, and our well-being. And as you say, the last 100 years, we've kind of demonized it. But I really want to dispel that myth today through our conversation. So thank you for being with us, and love to hear more about what your definition of medicinal versus recreational versus, and give us the primer on this because it's very important.
Sure. So with medical versus recreational, there are a lot of patients that, come into the clinic and do advise that they're not here for the recreational, they're here for the medical cannabis. And I can appreciate that. I know that there's a goal to be achieved, and we certainly want to support patients with achieving their goals for a better quality of life. I'm quick to say cannabis does not cure, but it can help to put symptoms into a remission status. And that's the goal with cannabis, is building a better quality of life. as you were referring, we have an endocannabinoid system, so we have receptors in the system that cannabis can come in and attach to, and really the role of cannabis in our body is to create homeostasis. And so this endocannabinoid system that we all have, it's responsible for regulating a lot of processes like our mood, temperature, digestion, appetite, pain perception, sexual reproductive organs, immunity. The list really does go on and on about what the system is regulating. And it's being regulated by two endocannabinoids that we have, that our body creates, 2-AG and anandamide. And when you put those molecular structures up alongside CBD and THC, cannabidiol and tetrahydrocannabidiol, though they're very similar molecular structures. So I guess the best analogy for medical versus recreational in cannabis, because I like to say it's how, when, why, where we're using it. That really makes the change. The products are the same. And so the best analogy I've seen and I speak to is, holding up two bananas, right? This banana in my right hand, my friend Betsy eats because she just loves the taste of bananas. But this banana in my other hand is my friend Bob, and he eats bananas because his doctor has told him he's low in potassium, and he can help to restore those levels by eating bananas. Right now, I'm holding up a bunch of bananas. You tell me which one is medical and which one is recreational. Yeah, it's hard to tell, isn't it? Right. So it is the same, but one, we can eat out of enjoyment and pleasure, and or we're using it to achieve a goal, right, of boosting that potassium level. So cannabis is the same, right? There's some people recreationally that use it to unwind and relax and become closer with spirituality, and then there's others who are using it with an intention, a purpose, to help reduce anxiety, reduce pain, promote sleep, right? There's a myriad of conditions that cannabis helps to support because it is about balancing that body and homeostasis.
Well, what's so really unique about this is the fact that this substance can adapt to whatever it is that you need in your body. It doesn't have to be, directed specifically for whatever you're doing. It's an adaptogen. It finds what it needs to do in your body and does it.
Exactly. Yes. So it's not very condition specific. Right, it's about homeostasis and locating where are the deficiencies in the body and trying to accommodate those with cell communication.
Right, which is very different because the pharmaceutical world has created a synthetic version of this, and lots of physicians, and I'll say this, will gravitate towards a pharmaceutical base because, like I've heard said, is that they are very assured of the specificity of what they're getting when they prescribe this, which is really different than what the homeostatic process is when you take the natural product. And this is something that, needs to be brought to light as well.
Yes, most definitely, and more research to support the anecdotal evidence. There's plenty of anecdotal evidence. Most of us at this point, with almost 500,000 patients in Canada have prescribed medical cannabis, we're learning more just through conversation and realizing that yes, the pharmaceutical options are definitely needed, but typically more on a shorter term, where the cannabis is providing just a different method of application to be able to treat symptoms naturally without the excessive side effects that are typically caused by the pharmaceutical options, but not to say that they can't work well together, right? You don't have to choose one or the other. We just have to make sure that we're using them both in combination safely like we do with any other supplement or herbal medication alongside our pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is that there is a lot of anecdotal evidence with the natural product, whereas with the pharmaceuticals there is more medical study. But I wonder if the pharmaceutical grade product actually does work with the cannabinoid receptors in our body as does the natural product. That's something that is a question burning in my mind.
Yeah, so what we're finding is the pharmaceutical options, because they're singular molecules, they're not in the what we call the entourage effect or the ensemble effect that we have experienced with cannabis, right? So the entourage effect is when all of the cannabinoids, so your THC, your CBD, LSD, your CBG, your CBN, your THCV. There's like 144 different cannabinoids, and each strain grows and produces different levels of these cannabinoids. And then we also have terpenes in cannabis as well, which is the essential oils, the aromatherapy of cannabis that do provide us more of our effects that we achieve when we use cannabis as medicine. So having them all in together, I kind of use a rock band analogy. So think of it, we're at the rock concert, and up on stage we have THC as our singer, and we have CBD as our drummer, and we have CBN on piano, and then we have terpenes, linalool, and myrcene as our backup singers. So everybody on stage has talent, but it's not until they play together that we get to rock out. Right? So when we're using a pharmaceutical, there's not that opportunity for that entourage effect. We don't get to rock out. We just get that one talent. So it's not as effective in studies that have been done and produced that we get the same results when we use the synthetic cannabinoids versus when we're using the whole plant. And I just like to remind people we are whole people, so whole plant does make sense for our treatments.
Right. Well, thank you for that analogy, because a lot of people are getting confused between the pharmaceutical grade and the natural product, and and it helps to understand that analogy is really this symbiogy, this completeness is what we're looking for if we're wanting to really understand the cannabis world, and love to go back to you explaining a little bit more about the difference between CBD oil and and the THC, and as you have just illuminated us, that there are so many other components to this story that people are really focusing only on a couple, aren't they?
Yes, and I mean, it's what's in the media right now. CBD is getting major buzz in the media, and THC is getting a little bit of a shaft for its medicinal qualities because it's seen in that recreational value right now with the legalization. But THC certainly does have great medical benefits, and using a combination of cannabinoids alongside terpenes is going to ultimately provide the best results. And so when patients come in and they're, Martina, how am I going to feel on this? What am I going to feel like on this CBD oil? I say it's not what you're going to feel like, it's what you no longer feel. This is how we know it's working, because it doesn't change our brain into any sort of state of euphoria. There's a lot of controversy about CBD being psychoactive in the media right now, and it is a psychoactive product. If somebody is in a state of anxiety and they were able to use CBD and they're no longer in that state, then a psychoactive change has occurred. But psychoactive does not mean impairment. Right? So we have to be very careful with our language. So CBD is something that is being widely used during the daytime because it doesn't cause that impairment, and so it doesn't disrupt the brain or the daily routines or duties. So we see a lot of children using the CBD oil very successfully, and again, it is creating a psychoactive change, but for the positive, right, without the impairment. And then using THC more at nighttime to help shut down. It does help stop the pain. It is like our painkiller, where CBD provides more of an anti-inflammatory when we're dealing with chronic pain. So having the THC dosing at nighttime can really help shut off that pain and promote that sleep time that is so essential for us to be able to get up the next day and handle our medical conditions and continue with our dosing and our goal of better quality of life.
Well, the key is really, yes, is quality of life improvement, to give us, that we don't have to live in a state of pain and all its limitations that go with the inflammatory processes of many, many different diseases out there today, like MS and seizures and, fibromyalgia, chronic pain from accidents, and physical, mental, emotional pain as well. So what I really, really love to hear a little bit more about is the use of CBD in children, because I think there are a lot of conditions out there that children are experiencing and families are living through that CBD could really help, right?
Definitely, and it is making great progress. We're having great results come out of the children that are using the CBD oil on a daily basis, where other pharmaceutical treatments have caused, again, more side effects, right? We always have to weigh risks and benefits when we're considering medications for anybody, but especially more for children, just in understanding that we don't have the evidence of, for long term, knowing how it does impact the brain development in children. But, a parent is always very quick to say, nobody is talking to me about the long-term effects of the pharmaceutical either. So they're very eager to try a natural treatment that typically doesn't cause side effects. I've yet for a parent to call back into the clinic saying, oh, great, now we're not using the washroom. We can't, have a bowel movement, right? This medication is now causing constipation or stomach issues. So typically we're finding a ripple effect of positivity, right? So even though we're trying to address, say, ADHD, right, hyperactivity, and the patient is, beginning to process more information, so they're learning easier in school, their days at school become easier, their sleep becomes more consistent and solid, right? So they're just productive, and they're able to regain their control and maintain themselves appropriately, where it impacts the whole family, and in a positive manner, where there's, relationships are able to be restored and built back up again. I had supported a young boy with epilepsy, and quite successfully, and the parents had said, it's been quite the change. Like, we're now meeting our boy for the first time. We're taking family vacations, and we're enjoying life. He's no longer in a wheelchair. He's running, he's jumping, he's asking to go to the park, where before he was very, not comatose, but very quiet and introverted and didn't have a lot of zest for life. And now this kid is up and going, and parents are having a hard time keeping up because they haven't grown with him into this active energy level. But, it's amazing to see the results, and to, living, breathing in front of me, running around and laughing and joking, compared to when I had met him 2 years ago, when, he would acknowledge me with a nod, and that was it, right? So the difference in these children are night and day, and just the whole family unit, can't get over the results. And then, making sure that they solidify and maintain their prescriptions to ensure that they're able to maintain this progressive result.
Right. Well, it takes a partnership, and it takes somebody to navigate the questions, the journey, personalize this whole process as well. So I really appreciate what you are doing, and you fell into this basically, and learned that there's a whole world of education, and now it's so timely that people really get this information. I know, Martina, that you also had an experience where you had a friend who overdosed and died of a narcotic, or and you could have seen a different outcome for this person if they had worked with you in terms of CBD and how it could have helped them. Could you share the story?
Yeah, for sure. So our friend had passed away last year, very troubling time, and difficult to talk about because it was the addiction and using narcotics on the streets, and not safe ones, where when the autopsy came back, it was shown that carfentanil was in the body, in the system, at the time of death. So with this, we're just seeing so many negative reactions, and the addictions that are coming from, these supposed short-term pharmaceutical options for dealing with high pain. And so I just feel that if he had the opportunity, if I had a better opportunity to educate and sit down and really go through a good treatment plan, where we're always looking at the harm reduction as well, right? So being able to turn into cannabis where there is no lethal dose, where we don't have the same safety concerns as we do with other pharmaceuticals, if he had that regular supply of cannabis as medicine, would that have allowed him the opportunity to stop the addiction? And because they are using CBD in addictions, as it's a very neuroprotective property, and so at higher doses can really help with the withdrawals, right? So being able to accommodate somebody who's in active addiction, who's looking to leave that side of the game, but safely, right? A lot of times we can't cut these drugs, these pharmaceuticals, cold turkey. It has very negative response on the body, so it needs to be in a safe setting. But what is going to be the accommodating dose, right, to help out with those symptoms that are coming from the withdrawals? And so CBD and THC could have been an option to help with the nausea, to help with the anxiety, to help with the pain, and to help with the sleep while going through the detox. But unfortunately, we didn't get that opportunity before he had passed.
But this is an opportunity that if anybody out there listening to this knows of somebody who wants to get off the merry-go-round of addiction, that this is possibly a way to help safely and effectively overcome whatever it is that they're on and make that switch so that one more person does not have to die needlessly of a pharmaceutical addiction to street drugs and especially the dangers of carfentanil being extremely on the utmost highest side of how it can devastate lives. So thank you for sharing that story, Martina.
You're very welcome. I do have another story to complement that one, where I was able to successfully help one of our friends out addicted to alcohol and using other street drugs like cocaine in party situations, but becoming, chronic. And so he was able to successfully detox, and then we spoke about a treatment plan for him. And so in June of this year, we actually celebrated his 1-year anniversary where he's just using medical cannabis as his treatment to deal with his chronic pain, where everything started from, but it very quickly changes into coping mechanisms of using alcohols to numb the pain and other street drugs to also numb. So, yes, as much as we do have the opportunities, they are here and they are present and they are working.
Oh, that's fabulous. That is so wonderful. That's a breath of relief for to hear that and to know that there is a successful way of dealing with this. There are the methadone clinics out there and things like that, but when you can use something natural that is, like you say, there's no toxicity level with cannabis use, and and that there is a practical application. It's not the stoned out stoners from the 70s that we think about. This is really timely, bringing the medicine home to where it can have a positive effect in the world. And the thing is, it can work on all age groups, as you've just shared. I mean, from children, I see with elderly who live in Tylenol. The effects of Tylenol on the liver is excruciating. And yet, that this is something that can actually be beneficial to people who are living with chronic pain as seniors as well, right?
Oh, yes, definitely. And I think they are the fastest growing population of cannabis use as medicine, because they're the most tired of taking these pharmaceuticals or other drug options. And, in the initial, they work very well, but eventually they peter out. And like with the Tylenol, the issues with the liver, so they are looking for other natural ones. And I like to tease and joke and say with them, at this point, if I had a handful of dirt and said it would make you feel better, you will take it, because it doesn't matter where the relief comes from, but to have a natural option is very satisfying for a lot of them, knowing that they won't have to worry about the condition of the liver or condition of the stomach lining, where we actually had at my previous clinic a patient who called in and said that they had pulled him off the liver transplant list, and we thought, oh no, they found out he was using cannabis, and they booted him off the list, and he says, no, you're not listening. I no longer need a liver. My liver has regenerated, right? So he stopped drinking.
Yeah, the liver can regenerate, which is great.
Yes. We just have to give it the right environment to do so, right? So cannabis doesn't impede that environment. It supports the environment. The diet was very important to change, as well as, stopping his drinking. And so, it doesn't need a liver, not pulled off, but no longer requires that liver, which was amazing results to hear back from a patient. And the excitement in his voice once he was able to get the whole message out was just incredible, give you the goosebumps.
God bumps, actually.
Yes.
Forget goose.
Really. Yes, fair. Very fair. Yeah, they were big. So, just the rewards that we get in this industry as well with all the success stories has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, exactly. I just love hearing these anecdotal stories because they are so inspiring and are so hopeful because, people get into the thought that I have this disease and that is the path and I become the disease and the disease becomes me and there's no hope and just management. And all of a sudden there's this new, renewed hope in health and well-being because of because of cannabis. Like, it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. Last week I was speaking with a patient's daughter who's supporting her mother, who's in her 80s now, and they went to a family wedding. The granddaughter got married, and grandma was on that dance floor dancing, where 3 weeks ago she was in a wheelchair. Right? So just the change can happen, and it happens so wonderfully for everybody, right? Across the whole family, they were ecstatic that she was up and moving and really enjoying herself, and that was with 3 weeks of cannabis use.
3 weeks, wow. Absolutely
very
amazing.
Fast results. Where we don't always expect those results very quickly. Because when we start with cannabis, we start on low doses just to make sure that the body is going to tolerate the dosing well. Even with CBD, it doesn't have any any euphoria, but there can still be side effects if we take too much too quickly. So we start on low doses and slowly titrate the dose up into a therapeutic dose. But that's very individual, right? So it can be very intimidating as well when coming into cannabis, saying, okay, we're going to start here, but we all end up very differently. And sometimes the results don't come as quick as 3 weeks, but the idea is that it will eventually start to balance out. And there are patients that will stop treatment after 30 days thinking it wasn't working, and that's totally fine to do. If something's not working, then we need to look at the problem and find other solutions. But then I'll get an email back a few days later saying, 4 or 5 days later saying, I stopped my treatment, but I have resumed because 4 or 5 days later, all my symptoms return that I forgot that I was experiencing.
It's a human condition to easily forget pain. We always gravitate towards pleasure, and it's easy to forget the painful points and parts of it. So it's interesting. That's, like you say, time. You have to give things time, and things are like 3 weeks or 3 days, but sometimes things take 3 months or 3 years.
Right. There's no. Yeah, because the timeline, there's not an expected timeline of, healing that happens in the body, but definitely that daily dosing is important for the CBD to have that build-up effect in the body, where THC is very on demand, right? So a lot of patients, if they need it, they will use it if they're struggling or suffering as an on-demand product, which is nice to have the flexibility, right? So CBD has flexibility, and so does THC, where, I do believe in the future it will come to a point of where we are able to, grab these bottles of oils to be able to dose and treat ourselves like we do with Tylenol and Advil.
Well, it's a dream. It's a goal, that's for sure. So, Martina, our half hour is winding down. I wonder if you can share with people how they can get a hold of you and maybe tell a little bit about the process of getting into the clinic.
Great, thank you. So those that are interested in looking into medical cannabis, we can always set up potential patient calls at the clinic, just because a lot of us have questions and concerns before we go through the process. But knowing that Light is here to support you from point A to point B, providing ongoing support as the treatment gets going so that we can tailor it to a patient's needs. So our services are all online. We are a virtual clinic where you can have your appointment through a video application. over your phone from the comfort of home. We kind of almost have that walk-in feeling where you come in and advising us what the issues are, and we're quick to address and quick to accommodate the appointment to get the recommendation going for access into the cannabis as medicine. And so everything is done online, which is nice and convenient. No travel time, no sitting in waiting rooms with other sick people with the chance of getting sick yourself. So it's been a very nice and convenient process. But just knowing that we're here as ongoing support is the most important, because the treatment definitely needs to be tailored to a patient's needs.
Right. So Light, L-Y-T-E, Clinic, CLINIC, all one word, .com. We'll get you there. Or you can call 647-325-5983. Thank you, Martina. It has been a wonderful half hour with you, and we should do this again as we explore. Thank you for being with us today on Ageless Blissings, and have a wonderful body, mind, and spirit-filled week. Bye-bye for now.
You have been listening to Ageless Blissings with Brenda Pierce. The views and opinions have been those of the participants and are not to be taken as medical advice. For more Ageless Blissings, visit www.facebook.com/agelessblissings. Until next time, have a wonderful body, mind, and spirit-filled week.